Hi there everybody, Jack here again at the Vinyl Voyage. So, after a hectic, rather stressful flight back from Berlin and a drive back up home, I found this in front of the doorstep. So the postie had left me the new album from Vampire Weekend. This follows 2019's Father of the Bride, so that's 5 years we've had to wait for this album. So is it any good? Let's find out. So, to date then, Vampire Weekend have given us their self-titled debut in 2008. The very start of 2010, we had Contra, the follow-up. Then we had Modern Vampires of the City in 2013, Father of the Bride on 2019, and now that 5-year wait for the cryptically titled Only God Was Above Us. Now, Ezra Koenig has said that every single Vampire Weekend album tells a story, so this is a new chapter. So Vampire Weekend are, of course, Ezra Koenig on vocals, guitar and principal songwriting duties. You've got Chris Baio on bass, Chris Thompson on drums. They used to have Rostam Batman Galij, if I've pronounced that right. He was their multi-instrumentalist who left in 2014, just after Modern Vampires of the City. He popped up a couple of times on Father of the Bride, on Harmony Hall and We Belong Together, that song with Danielle Haim. And he pops up in another one here, so he still does have close ties with the band. So production duties here are taken care of by Ezra Koenig and Ariel Rechtshaid, who had produced the previous album as well. And to be honest, his fingerprints are absolutely all over this album. He helps out with the orchestration. He plays almost every single instrument imaginable. He does all the drum programming, plays the drums, plays guitar, plays upright bass, plays bass. I think he plays Farfisa organ. Again, another multi-instrumentalist, and we'll look at it a little bit more later, but I think he plays on more tracks than the other band members apart from Ezra Koenig. He's almost like the fourth vampire of Vampire Weekend. Okay, so to provide a little context on my relationship with the band, what I've thought of Vampire Weekend previously, I was very late to the Vampire Weekend party, and I first heard them when Cousins, the single Cousins, come out from Contra. And when I first heard it, I absolutely hated it. I really disliked it. It really grated on my nerves. It seemed so manic all over the place, and I just didn't get on board with it at all. So fast forward then to 2011, I was living out in Cyprus, and I thought I'm going to go back and have another listen to Vampire Weekend. And I had a listen to their debut, and I absolutely fell in love with their West Side Soweto sound. Really get into them. And since then, I've devoured everything that I could possibly hear from Vampire Weekend. Loved Contra. Went back, listened to lots of their live performances, their B-sides, any cover versions they did. Waited patiently for Modern Vampires of the City to come out. Loved that. Loved Father of the Bride too. I don't understand why that was so underappreciated. Absolutely fantastic album. So yeah, nowadays, Vampire Weekend are probably, alongside Beck, my favourite contemporary artist. So with that in mind, reviewing this album should be easy, shouldn't it? Before we get into the music, we're going to have a look at the artwork, which is built around the photography of conceptual filmmaker and photographer Steven Seagal. We're not talking about that Steven Seagal. There's no 80s martial arts nonsense here. This is all photography based around New York from the 80s. So this is the indie exclusives press of the album with different artwork. To be honest though, I prefer the original cover. I like the newspaper on the front with the headline, Only God Was Above Us. But this is a really nice shot too. Ezra Koenig has said, you know, how important the photography was in conceptualising the themes within the album as well. He liked this idea of funky 80s New York with a surreal twist. Yeah, it's really cool. I love this inside cover shot as well. You can see that. These graffitied subway trains. Looking then at these inside covers, we've got this really cool shot of the band. This is again so kind of late 80s, early 90s. It looks like it could have been a shot from Check Your Head. It begs the question, are Vampire Weekend going hip hop? It's really classy as well. So it's split over 2 LPs, which I kind of don't really like, but this is the other one, and then another Cool pick of the band. So as you can see, I've just got the black vinyl, but I really love those labels with the title, Only God Was Above Us. Looks really, really cool. They got that title from, I believe it was a headline from maybe the New York Times from 1988. It was a story about a survivor of an aircraft crash. So you also get this poster, which has the lyrics on one side and there's a massive poster on the other. I won't open it out just now. I'll open it up in a second. But I don't like this at all. I would prefer a booklet. When I like going in and reading the lyrics, and I like reading all the credits and who produced it, who played what, and it's a pain to have to open up this massive poster each time. So next time, Ezra, just give us a booklet, please. So there we have that mega cool poster on one side. Just give you a closer look. And on the other side, we have some more cool photos, the lyrics, and lots of credits as well. Just unfortunate that this isn't in a booklet, because realistically I ain't taking this poster out again. So Koenig spoke a lot in the past about how important Steven Seagal's photography was for this album art, and he's also spoken about how he felt in the past that a lot of psychedelic bands, the album art was absolutely tremendous, but the music inside didn't quite live up to the covers. Well, let's see if that's the case for Vampire Weekend. Is the album, is the music as good as this really cool 80s album art? So the first track is the amazingly titled Ice Cream Piano, and it starts with Ezra's gentle, crooned, familiar voice singing Fuck the World, and then we've got this like lightly strummed acoustic guitar and this discordant kind of background hum. It really doesn't sound very Cape Cod kwasa kwasa. But then these old-time piano chords start to come in, and the bass tempo starts to pick up. The world was weaponized, Koenig sings. The drums start to roll, and then with a snap of the fingers, in the most exhilarating, joyous way possible, absolutely manic, Vampire Weekend are back. The melodies are absolutely irresistible. The lyrics cryptically Koenig, all about conflict and war. We're all the sons and daughters of vampires who drained the old world's neck. That tremendous Koenig line. There's all these allusions to history and how history can be moulded to shape our futures. Koenig has said, as a child, he never really followed genres. Instead, he preferred to go down different rabbit holes and see where the rabbit hole led him. And that's how he kind of stayed away from genre conventions and following any one type of music. He said, obviously being a child of Napster kind of era, he said music was so accessible, so he could listen to so many different genres. And again, that starts to really become apparent listening to this first song. We get this arpeggiated piano line that comes in towards the end of the song, which is absolutely joyous. And then after that, we're again treated to one of those amazing violin breaks, which is so quintessential Vampire Weekend. That starts to take you even higher. But then right towards the end of the song, you get this kind of distorted slide guitar motif that comes in, and that appears, as you'll find out, all the way through the album. And that's like a kind of new sound, and it carries on into the next song. The next song then is classical. So we've got more of that kind of distorted slide guitar sound, but with this really melodic guitar line running over the top of it. And you know something, I don't really think that Koenig gets the credit that he's due as a guitarist. He's really intricate guitar lines, but really melodic rather than kind of virtuoso. But then we have this double bass coming in, and that's another kind of constant through this album as well. There's a lot of upright double bass, which gives the album a really unique sound, and lots of jazzy inflections on the piano. Further in then, we've got screaming saxophone, and it gets even jazzier, you know, as this Vampire Weekend going into more experimental territory. So the song, again, is about nostalgia and looking backwards, but specifically looking at kind of conflict and cruel events, and how the people who write the history books can reinterpret these events and make them almost classical. So again, Koenig's lyrics, for me, they're always really thoughtful, quite cryptic, and there's a lot to delve in. So third up then is Capricorn. This is one of two songs that was dropped as a teaser for the album, and I love this straight away. It's got such a cool video by Steven Seagal showing the 80s New York, but it's typical Vampire Weekend. It's got that plodding bass line. It's got those lovely arpeggiated Glenn Gould sounding piano lines, and it's thematically really just a real New York song, obviously a theme that's never far away from the lips of Vampire Weekend. Again, this song looks over its shoulder at the past, but not only New York's past, but also Vampire Weekend, the band's past. And you've got that great line, too old for dying young. It's a little play on words, a pun, referencing the song Diane Young from Modern Vampires of the City. But that's something that happens a lot through this album as well. It's almost like little Easter eggs, little references to older songs, older melodies, older drum beats. The song's just got this great New York sounding hip hop drum beat, reminiscent of bands like A Tribe Called Quest, especially with all those kind of classical jazzy elements in there as well. It sounds really A Tribe Called Quest. So, you know, it's definitely a bit of a new direction for the band. But then you have harsher sounds coming in as well, contrasting with sweeter acoustic guitars. So there's a lot of contrast within this song, the album as a whole, but a whole lot of inventiveness as well. Then we've got this absolutely beautiful piano flourish that comes in to introduce the next song, Connect. It's one of my favourite songs in the album. It's got that wonderful upright bass sound again, a great drum beat, lots of jazzy inflections, and it really sounds far away from their old Paul Simon, Graceland-inspired melodies and drum beats. The memories don't fade. Ezra Koenig sings on this one, and again he's got that little nod to the past, but that contrasts with all these new sounds and textures introduced on this album. But then, again, to contrast that, it's underpinned by the drum beat from Mansard Roof off the first album, and that pops up a couple of times through the song, and it's instantly recognisable. But with these crazy discordant piano sounds, you hear Vampire Weekend veering further and further into jazz territory. But when the full orchestration comes in, the instrumentation's absolutely glorious, especially the piano. It's just so beautiful. I think Connect really highlights the production on this album. It's absolutely fantastic, and I think the influence of Ariel Rechtshaid can't be underestimated. He's involved in the orchestration, and he's done an absolutely fantastic job here. You know, he's an experienced producer. He's worked with everyone from Adele to Usher. He produced this and the previous Vampire Weekend album. And I know Ezra Koenig himself has called him almost like the fourth member of Vampire Weekend. He's called them their musical conscious. Next then we have the wonderfully titled Prep School Gangsters, which is one of the more straightforward songs on the album. However, it's still packed with lovely melodies and lyrics that kind of harken back to the past. It's got that great line, somewhere in your family tree there's someone just like me. It's got a lovely little guitar line that goes through it, some nice organ sounds. It sounds almost a little bit Cape Kwassa Kwassa. Get in there. Next then we've got The Surfer. It opens with this cracking kind of late 80s old school hip hop beat. We've got all this discordant piano sound coming through. It's the album's slow burner, but each time you listen to it, it just grows on you more and more and more. I think it's got an absolutely fantastic chorus. I love the chorus to it. Later on in the song, you've got these wonderful horns that come in, which to me almost sounded a little bit like a Rocky, like the kind of music that I would imagine in a Rocky movie. And then a little bit further in, again, you've almost got like, you've got that slide guitar again, but it doesn't sound as distorted. And this time it almost sounds like a George Harrison kind of guitar lead, which is really nice as well. But again, another great song. Next up then is Gen X Cops. This was the other song that dropped alongside Capricorn, and it's another change in sound for the band. So Koenig said in the past that he's felt that Vampire Weekend have always been labelled an indie/alternative rock band. However, he never felt that they fitted into that genre until this song and a little bit this album. He feels this is the first kind of stab at an alternative rock song, and it does sound a little bit alternative rock. It sounds very New York still. It sounds almost like Vampire Weekend outstroking the Strokes. It's got that great distorted kind of slide guitar lead again, and like I said, a very New York vibe. Koenig's talked about how this song's been kicking around for about 12 years in demo format, and he's never quite known how to finish it until now. And the album as a whole obviously took a long time to finish. Koenig's very meticulous and thoughtful in how he puts out his albums. But he said that it wasn't so much the writing that took the time on this, or the recording. He said it was more the mastering and the kind of editing it together. Koenig's also spoke about how he feels really comfortable in the studio, but less so when he plays live. Well, I'm going to see you in Glasgow in December, Ezra, so you better get your act together. Next then is Mary Boon, another hymn to New York, and specifically this time the disgraced New York art dealer Mary Boon, who went to prison for tax evasion. So the song opens with this beautiful sounding choir. Sounds very kind of New York prep school, very collegiate, and again you've got these lovely Glenn Gould inspired piano lines running through the song. Several times then through the song you've got this wonderful heavy hip hop drum beat just dropping in, and it's really reminiscent of Kanye West's drum beat on the song Runaway from My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Sounds really cool when it drops in. And of course Vampire Weekend are no strangers to hip hop. They had that wonderful sample slash cover of Step to My Girl by the Souls of Mischief on the song Step from Modern Vampires in the City. But yeah, you can tell that they're like kind of hip hop heads from that old school era of late 80s, kind of early 90s. So this beat just drops in and out. It's absolutely fantastic. And combined with the music and all the lyrics and the references to New York boroughs, New York personalities, it just kind of combines to create this other fantastic ode to the city. So the second last song on the album is Pravda, which is Russian for truth or justice if you're Serbian. And I had a real sense of deja vu when I was listening to this song. It took me a little while to place it, but the melody sounds really like the song Flower Moon from Father of the Bride, especially when Koenig sings, I'm leaving at the rising of the moon. The song has all these references to Russia running through it, and thematically, I think it's about leaving a place that doesn't feel good for you or is not good for you. But I just love that Koenig line where he sings, your consciousness is not my problem. And also, you know, that beautifully melodic guitar line of Koenig's that runs through the song as well is just great. So the album closes with Hope, and over 8 minutes, that's the longest song on the album. It's got, again, a fantastic hip-hop drum beat. It's got that lovely classical piano running through it. And thematically, it's a song about, you know, accepting the challenges and difficulties in your life, especially the ones that you can't control. And Ezra sings about, he kind of pleads with you almost to let go of your anxieties and your worries. For an album that's always looking over its shoulder, you know, this album examines Vampire Weekend's past, New York in the 1980s. Hope is the first song that kind of looks to the future. Koenig's spoken in the past about his creative process for determining the direction of the next album, and he said it's usually determined by the album that he's working on or recording at that time. So does that mean then, if we take Hope as the last song on the album, does that mean that in 2029 we should be expecting an anthemic album that focuses on peace? Well, at the moment, I'm going to live in the moment and I'm going to keep enjoying Only God Was Above Us. So the album as a whole then, it's melodic, it's inventive, it's experimental, it's joyously upbeat at times, it's self-reverential, it's cryptically thoughtful, it's sprawling in scope. To be honest, it's absolutely everything I could have hoped from the fifth Vampire Weekend album. The production on the album is absolutely fantastic. Koenig and Ariel have done a brilliant job, but for me that kind of means nothing without quality songs. And Ezra's spoken in the past about how much songwriting means to him, and he told this little story about how he was a massive Kinks fan when he was younger, and he said that had come from his dad, because he said that his dad used to play him the song Waterloo Sunset and say to him, son, this is an example of a fantastic song. And that really bears fruit on this album, because strip away all the production and all the studio trickery, you would still have an absolutely amazing album if this was really stripped back, because the songs are so good. And there we have it, my review of the amazing Only God Was Above Us. After the sprawling double album of Father of the Bride, here we have 10 tight, absolutely fantastic songs, 7 of which Ezra has called the 7 best songs of Vampire Weekend's career. Who am I to argue? The bigger question here is it too early to call Only God Is Above Us the best album of 2024? Time will tell. See you the next time. Bye for now.